Hey sinners, Shannon Sinister here. I wanted to talk about my next review, which is Final Destination Bloodlines. So I was super excited to see this film. It's been 14 years since we got our last one, and a 25-year anniversary for the original. Stay tuned for a look back at that film coming soon up on my YouTube channel. But this like I said, the trailer was very intriguing. It does look like it was like a little bit of a time period piece, which obviously we got a little bit of that. I'm not going to spoil the film too much. I'm going to always try to be careful because yeah, encourage everybody to go see this film because it was definitely a fun ride. So let's talk about the plot. So the plot is pretty straightforward, just like all the other films. Except this one, it does start off as a premonition in the beginning, but the main focus revolved around, a young college student. She keeps having this recurring nightmare, like to the point where she's screaming, has night terrors, and she just knows in her core that it's about her grandmother, who was the one who basically had the premonition in the opening sequence that you see. And she just needs to find out more. She needs to find out, why am I having this? Why does it feel so real? And what's going on? And then family secrets start to unfold, start to come to the surface. And she definitely shakes and rattles the family a bit to try to figure this all of this out. But either way, she goes out seeking for her grandmother, and it just causes a lot of issues from there. And I'll admit, death is obviously right on her tail, as we know, again, with any Final Destination film. So plot's pretty simple, so let's talk about the hits. So the reason why we all go see any Final Destination film is for the crazy and gnarly deaths that we get, and then I know they tried stepping it up with each film that came out. So we really weren't expecting anything different with this one, and we they definitely delivered. I did love the opening sequence. I thought it was, definitely a crazy tragedy. Um, Maybe not my favorite one out of the whole franchise, but still very worthy. And then the what happens afterwards is it's just insane. And it was definitely a good time. Definitely had some that will make you cringe, and there's definitely like the more interesting ones are plague on, like, I think, genuine fears, like obviously like an airplane. Now a log truck is the most iconic one of them all. And certain things that exist in a hospital, I have a feeling already kind of are a fear, so this is not going to help that in any way, shape, and or form. But definitely the deaths were spot on for a Final Destination film. Another thing about them too was that it seemed they tried to go back a little bit to basics. They went back to a lot of it looked practical to me. I know the fourth film, I believe, gets a lot of uh, it gets a lot of hate because of the it was very CGI heavy, where they tried controlling that in this one. So even the CGI, they had to use some of it, but to me it looked a lot more seamless, a lot more polished. It wasn't anything campy. It definitely wasn't made for 3D, so we didn't get any of those like oddball, like things that pop out of you at the screen just to explode and pop out of you at the screen. There was definitely a little bit more um, there was more thought put into these. Another thing I really liked were actually the characters. Like, so this revolved around a family. So this changed the dynamic up a little bit, where majority of the films, was a bunch of strangers that got together, or people that necessarily didn't hang out or like each other too much, and they were all just constantly at odds because they were never friends in the first place. So you got the main, antagonist trying to, save everybody, and obviously it never works, but um but I liked the fact that this was more of a family. So the especially the cousins, I think, will be the most enjoyable, because they're, obviously they're the siblings, and they just have a different relationship that you could tell that they love each other and they support each other, yet they're very sarcastic, just like siblings should be. And it brought about a little bit of like natural comedy and natural character development, and you actually end up liking these characters and feeling for them when their inevitable fate comes, comes for them. And so it's just a little, it hits a little bit different, I think, this time where you're like, oh man, I really like that guy. Have to talk about the recurring character of Tony Todd, who, I mean, we all loved him anyway. I know he was as an iconic, character in the film, starting from the very beginning. I believe he missed one or two of the films, but this one they definitely brought him back, and I believe it's pretty much spoiled now all over social media. If you've seen any memes, with him, it's still worth seeing the scene, and you will break down and cry a little bit because I'm assuming they knew very much so that he was sick, and this is probably going to be one of his last films or his last time doing a Final Destination film as this character. And it definitely they definitely played that, for the scene, which fit his character so well. It also helped explain his character a little bit more. Like, we always just kind of like, he was always a very mysterious person. A lot of people, I feel like there were debates over the years, like whether or not he was actually deaf or just portraying death, even though he didn't necessarily introduce himself as such. So this actually gave him more of a character development to, or basically revealed the mystery, if you will, of him. And again, it was refreshing to see him in this role. And again, what he says, I think it hits different this time. So rest in peace, Tony Todd. We miss you. So let's move on to some of the misses, or maybe like I'm a little mixed on this one, I'll admit. But I'll d- like I said, with all the things that I just said, hits aside. Again, there's elements to the story that I do genuinely like, but definitely keep in mind it's definitely nothing completely outside the box. The film is as formulaic as any of the other Final Destination films. The formula basically fits just like any Hallmark Christmas movie, if you've ever seen one of those. And it's, like I said, I can appreciate the things that they try doing different in this one. Almost kind of think of it as like Friday the 13th Part 7, where, like, okay, fine, they introduce a girl with powers, kind of like Carrie. However, it's still a Friday the 13th film with Jason killing everybody on a camp. Yeah. So basically, that's how, yeah, that's my example, and I'm sticking to it. So another kind, again, kind of a miss, kind of on the mixed side of it, maybe, because I don't know what I would have done differently. But the very end scene, I'll admit, I thought it was a little corny. It's, again, nothing really outside the box. It's, again, like I said, Final Destination films. Either you're kind of like, okay, this is what I expect from a Final Destination film, or we're perfectly satisfied with it because of the consistency. So take it take it how you like it. It's if you're expecting anything like crazy different, I'll admit, don't do that. But it's still a fun. You're like, yeah, that's how I see this movie ending. So I'll admit there's no really surprises there. But like I said, the rest of the film, it totally makes up for it. So my thoughts overall, this is definitely a must see, especially if you're a fan like me, and if if you're old like me and you've been around for a little bit, and if you've been around since the very beginning of this franchise. It's just so nostalgic at this point. And I actually do hope they make more. I mean, I could wait, I don't know if I could wait another 14 years, but I have a feeling this is going to be a recurring thing every once in a while, because this franchise is that much loved from the horror fans. It's that much recognized, and it's created so many different elements now. Like, I mean, everybody, I know it's probably being said to death, and they even advertised this film uh, using the log trucks that everyone. I don't know if that was a fear before, but it definitely created that fear for everybody, because your mind immediately will go to the second film for that opening sequence. So it's a very creative franchise in that aspect. And it's, like I said, this one I tip my hat to directors, Zach Lipovsky and Adam Stein, that wrote and directed this one. I tip my hat to you guys. I thought this one was a worthy shot, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's my review on Final Destination Bloodlines. Have you seen it? What did you think of this film? Please try to keep it spoiler free. So let me know what movie I should be talking about next in the comments below. But until next time, stay spooky, stay weird, keep the lights on if you're too afraid. And until next time, that's a cut.